Millionaire tries to shame ex-wife at wedding, only to discover 3 sons he never knew. Before diving into the story, tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Enjoy the story. $6 billion and I still couldn't make her stay. James Mitchell's voice cut through the silence of his penthouse office. Forbes magazine open on his desk, his face on the cover, his empire sprawling across San Francisco's skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. He traced the word billionaire beneath his photo, remembering how Sarah used to say money would never buy happiness. His intercom crackled. "Sir, your stylist is here with wedding suit options. Send them in." James adjusted his Rolex, catching his reflection. At 45, he barely recognized himself, graying temples, harder eyes, and a smile that hadn't reached them since Sarah walked out 6 years ago. The door opened, but instead of the stylist, Victoria Chase, his supermodel fiancée, strutted in, tossing a cream envelope onto his desk. "Darling, why is your ex-wife on our wedding guest list?" James picked up the invitation, Sarah's name printed in golden calligraphy. "Because revenge is best served in front of 500 guests and a Vogue photography team. You want to shame her?" Victoria's red lips curved into a delicious smile. "That's wonderfully wicked. She left me when Tech Vision was nothing but a startup in my garage." James stood, walking to the window. "Said I'd never understand what really mattered in life. Now I'm worth $8 billion, about to marry the most followed influencer in Silicon Valley, and she's..." He smirked. "Still teaching at that little elementary school. Then let's show her exactly what she lost." Victoria wrapped her arms around him. "Make her watch as I become the new Mrs. Mitchell." James pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over Sarah's contact, the number he'd never deleted. "No, I think I'll deliver this invitation personally. Time to remind her that walking out was her biggest mistake." His finger pressed dial, and for the first time in 6 years, Sarah's voice filled his ear. "Hello? Hello, Sarah. We need to talk." If only he knew that revenge, like code, never runs exactly as planned. And his perfectly orchestrated humiliation was about to explode in his face, bringing with it 3 surprises that would shatter his world forever. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The suburban neighborhood looked exactly as James remembered it. Sarah's modest 2-story house stood out with its bright blue door and overflowing flower boxes. So typically her. He killed the engine of his Tesla and sat there, wedding invitation burning a hole in his Armani jacket. A kid's bicycle lay on its side in the front yard. Strange, he thought, Sarah never mentioned wanting children. The doorbell's chime hadn't changed either. James straightened his tie, practiced his smirk, and waited. "Coming?" Sarah's voice called from inside. Then the door opened, and there she was, looking annoyingly well. Her hair was shorter now, but her eyes still had that same warmth he'd once found irresistible. "James?" She blinked, genuinely surprised. "What are you?" "Hello, Sarah." He pulled out the cream-colored envelope. "Special delivery." She took it, confusion clear on her face. "You came all the way here to give me a..." Her voice trailed off as she read the invitation. "You're getting married in 3 weeks," he couldn't help but add. "To Victoria Chase. You might know her from social media, 3 million followers." Sarah's expression didn't give him the satisfaction he'd hoped for. Instead she looked concerned. "Congratulations," she said carefully. "But why invite me? Can't an old friend?" A crash came from inside the house, followed by children's laughter. Sarah's head whipped around. "Boys. What did I say about playing ball inside?" "Sorry, Mom," multiple voices chorused back. "Boys? Plural?" James tried to peer past her into the house, but Sarah shifted, blocking his view. "Thank you for the invitation," she said firmly. "I'll think about it." "Who was that?" He gestured toward the noise. "My sons," her answer was clipped. "Sons? As in more than one?" Sarah's hand tightened on the door. "It was nice seeing you, James. Congratulations again on your engagement." "Mom." "Tommy took my controller," a small voice called from inside. "Did not. Daniel's lying." "Both of you, time out," a third voice joined in. James's head spun. 3 voices. 3 distinct boys' voices. "I should go," Sarah said quickly. "Good luck with the wedding." The door closed in his face before he could process what he'd heard. 3 boys. And something about their voices, their names. Back in his car, James pulled out his phone and did the math. 6 years since Sarah left. If she had been pregnant when... No, he muttered. She would have told him. But as he drove away, the nagging doubt followed him. Because Sarah hadn't just looked concerned when she read his invitation. She'd looked afraid. And James Mitchell hadn't built a tech empire by ignoring his instincts. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Part 3, The Truth Unravels. Mommy's gone? Michael peeked around the corner as Sarah leaned against the closed door. She nodded, clutching the invitation so tight it crumpled. Back to your homework, sweetie. But all three boys were already crowding the hallway, their identical blue eyes, his eyes, full of questions. Who was that man? Thomas asked. Just someone I used to know, Sarah managed. Daniel, didn't you have a math test to study for? Was that our dad? Daniel, always the most perceptive, hit the nail on the head. Sarah sank onto the stairs, her sons immediately surrounding her like protective satellites. 6 years of careful planning, of building their little world, threatened by one impulsive visit. Yes, she finally admitted. That was your father. Does he know about us? Michael's voice was small. Not yet, Sarah pulled them close, but he might figure it out soon. Her phone buzzed, a text from her sister Claire. Emergency. Call me. Sarah didn't need to call to know what it was about. Claire worked at Tech Vision's PR department. News traveled fast. Boys, start your homework. I need to make a call. In her tiny home office, surrounded by student papers from her 4th grade class, Sarah dialed Claire. He came to my house, Sarah said before Claire could speak. With the wedding invitation. I know. He's been broadcasting his plans to humiliate you all over the office. Claire paused. Sarah, you have to tell him. I know. Sarah watched through the window as her sons kicked a soccer ball around the backyard. They're happy, Claire. We're happy. James is getting married. Why complicate everything now? Because he invited you to his wedding to show you up, and when you show up with 3 mini-me. Who says I'm going? Sarah Thompson, you've been raising those boys alone for 6 years, making excuses for their father, working 2 jobs to give them everything. And now he wants to prove how much better off he is without you? Sarah watched Thomas help Daniel up after a fall, Michael rushing over with a band-aid from his pocket. Always prepared, just like she taught them. You're right, she said finally. But I'm not going to let him hurt them. Of course not. But maybe, Claire hesitated, maybe they deserve to know their father. And maybe he deserves to know them. After hanging up, Sarah found the boys had abandoned their soccer game and were huddled over her laptop. Mom? Michael called out. Is this him? Tech Vision CEO James Mitchell? On the screen was a Forbes article about Silicon Valley's most eligible bachelor, soon to be married. Sarah looked at her sons, their father's hair, his eyes, his determined chin, and made a decision. Get your suits ready, boys. We're going to a wedding. The invitation lay open on her desk. James Mitchell and Victoria Chase request the pleasure of your company. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They had no idea what kind of company was coming. Later that night, after the boys were asleep, Sarah sat in her small study, staring at 3 identical birth certificates. James's name was conspicuously absent, her choice, made in a hospital room 6 years ago when he hadn't answered her calls about going into early labor. He'd been in a board meeting, his assistant explained. Nothing could interrupt him. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos. The boys' first steps, first words, first day of school. Michael leading his brothers in everything, Thomas's creative chaos, Daniel's quiet wisdom. 6 years of moments James had missed. The wedding invitation caught the moonlight, gold lettering gleaming. Sarah remembered James's face today, successful, polished, cold. So different from the man who'd once stayed up 3 nights straight coding their first project together, who'd kissed her in the rain outside their first investor meeting, who'd promised her the world but forgotten to include her in it. Her phone buzzed again, Claire sending wedding details, seating charts, guest lists. The revenge James had planned so carefully was about to become his greatest awakening. Sarah looked at a recent photo of the boys, all 3 grinning after winning their school's science fair. Time to meet your father, she whispered. Ready or not? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Mom, Michael's hogging the mirror again. Thomas shouted from the hallway. Am not. Daniel's the one who spent 20 minutes fixing his hair. Sarah juggled 3 identical lunch boxes while navigating the morning chaos. Boys. Bus in 10 minutes. The triplets thundered down the stairs in their school uniforms, backpacks bouncing. At 10, they were already showing distinct personalities despite their identical appearances. Michael, the eldest by 4 minutes, checked his brother's ties. Tommy, yours is crooked. Stop mothering us, Thomas grumbled, but let Michael fix it anyway. Daniel, the youngest, was buried in a book. Did you know Dad's company was worth nothing when he started it? Sarah nearly dropped the lunches. Where did you read that? Internet. Daniel held up his tablet. He built it from scratch just like you always tell us to do with our projects. Since James's visit 3 days ago, the boys had become obsessed with their father. Sarah found them Googling him constantly, watching his TED Talks, reading about tech vision. Mom? Michael asked carefully. Why didn't you tell him about us? Sarah set the lunches down. It's complicated, sweetheart. We're not babies anymore, Thomas protested. We can handle complicated. She looked at their earnest faces, so much like their father's when he was solving a particularly tough coding problem. Your father was very focused on his company when we were together. He worked 18-hour days, missed holidays, birthdays. But he's successful now, Daniel pointed out. Success means different things to different people. Sarah checked their backpacks. I wanted a family. He wanted an empire. And now he's getting married, Michael said quietly. To someone named Victoria Chase, Thomas added. She's an influencer with really white teeth, Daniel contributed. Sarah couldn't help laughing. Have you boys been stalking your father's fiancée? They had the grace to look guilty. We just wanted to know, Michael defended, about our other family. The school bus honked outside. Is she always this dramatic? Thomas asked his brothers loudly enough for everyone to hear. Daniel snickered behind his book. Even Sarah had to suppress a smile. Victoria's face turned red. I can't, I need time to think. She spun on her heel and left, nearly colliding with Patricia Zhang, TechVision's legal counsel, who was rushing in with a stack of papers. James, we need to discuss succession planning, trust funds, potential shareholder concerns. Everyone out, James ordered, his CEO voice cutting through the chaos. Except the boys and Sarah. The room cleared reluctantly. Silence fell again as James studied his sons openly now. Michael, the protective one. Thomas, the bold one. Daniel, the quiet observer. 6 years of memories he'd never have. The wedding's in 2 weeks, he said finally. We know, the boys chorused. I need to process this. Sarah stood. Of course. Boys, say goodbye to your father. Father. The word hit him like a physical blow. Michael stepped forward first, extending his hand formally. Nice to meet you, sir. Your coding architecture for TechVision's main platform is brilliant, Thomas added casually. Daniel simply nodded, clutching his book tighter. As they filed out, James called after them. Wait, what's your favorite? Everything. I want to know everything. Sarah paused at the door. Why don't you come by tomorrow? We can talk properly. All of us. James nodded, unable to speak. After they left, he sat alone in the room, staring at his reflection in the window. 3 boys. 3 perfect, brilliant boys who'd grown up without him because he'd been too absorbed in his empire to notice what he was losing. His phone buzzed. Messages flooded in. Victoria, weddings postponed. Need space. Tom, board meeting at 8 a.m. Crisis management. Claire, leading tech blogs picking up the story. Need statement. Patricia, drafted preliminary trust documents. Urgent review needed. But among them was one that made his hands shake. Sarah, the boys want to know if you'd like to see their science fair projects tomorrow. For the first time in his life, James Mitchell had no plan, no strategy, no clear path forward. And somehow that terrified him less than the thought of losing his sons again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. They're asleep, Sarah said, joining James on the back porch of her house. A week had passed since the rehearsal dinner. They're incredible, James murmured, still processing the evening he'd spent playing board games with his sons. Michael beat me at chess. He beats everyone at chess. Thomas hacked my phone. He does that. And Daniel hasn't put down that quantum physics book I brought him. Sarah smiled. They're definitely your sons. James turned to her. Why didn't you tell me? The real reason. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, watching the fireflies in her small garden. Do you remember the week before I left? I was closing the series of funding. I tried to tell you I wasn't feeling well. 3 times. You were on conference calls each time. James remembered now, her pale face in his office doorway, him waving her away while talking to investors. The morning I found out I was pregnant, you had that big presentation. Sarah's voice was steady. You said, and I quote, nothing can distract me today. The future of TechVision depends on it. Sarah, I watched you that morning practicing your pitch. TechVision is my baby, you kept saying. My legacy. She turned to face him. So I made a choice. Your baby or ours? That's not fair. No, it wasn't. Not to you, not to them. But I was sick, scared, and watching my husband choose his company over me every single day. James slumped in his chair. I would have changed. Would you? Sarah challenged. Be honest, James. If I'd told you then, what would you have done? He thought about it, about his younger self, obsessed with success, determined to prove everyone wrong. I don't know. I do. You'd have thrown money at the problem. Set up trust funds, hired nannies, scheduled occasional visits between board meetings. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. But they needed a parent, not a portfolio manager. And now? Now. Why don't you ask them? Sarah stood up. They're not asleep, by the way. They're probably listening at the door right now. 3 distinct thumps and scrambling sounds confirmed her suspicion. James couldn't help laughing. They're definitely my sons. Yes, Sarah agreed softly. They are. Before James could respond, his phone buzzed. Victoria's name flashed on the screen. Sarah noticed. You should take that. Sounds like you have some decisions to make. She left him on the porch, staring at his phone and thinking about legacy, the one he'd built and the one he'd nearly lost. Inside, he could hear the boys whispering, did he like the chess game? Did you see his face when I showed him the hack? Do you think he'll help me understand quantum entanglement? James silenced his phone without answering. For once in his life, Victoria Chase could wait. His sons' voices drifted through the open window, discussing tomorrow's plans, their hopes, their curiosity about him. Each word felt like a gift he didn't deserve but desperately wanted to earn. The board could wait. The investors could wait. The empire could wait. Right now, James Mitchell had 3 lifetimes of catching up to do. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Sir, the board meeting starts in 10 minutes, James's assistant reminded through the phone. Cancel it. But sir, the quarterly projections. Tom can handle it. I'm taking my sons to lunch. James ended the call, watching the elementary school's entrance through his Tesla's windshield. 3 identical figures bounded down the steps, their faces lighting up when they spotted his car. Shotgun? Thomas yelled. No way, Michael protested. I'm oldest by 4 minutes. Daniel quietly slipped into the back seat, already nose deep in a book. Everyone gets a turn, James declared, still amazed at how natural this felt after just 2 weeks. Michael today, Thomas tomorrow, Daniel after? Fair, they chorused. At the burger joint they'd chosen, James watched them demolish their meals while firing questions at him. Did you really code your first program at 8? Thomas asked through a mouthful of fries. 7 actually. A simple game. Mom says you met at a tech conference, Michael added. James smiled at the memory. She destroyed my presentation completely. Are you still getting married? Daniel's quiet question hung in the air. James set down his burger. Victoria and I, we're taking some time apart. Because of us? Michael's voice was small. No, James said firmly. Because I need to figure out my priorities. Mom says that's what made you split up before, Thomas observed. His phone buzzed, the board meeting going into crisis mode. Another buzz, a Victoria demanding answers. A third, shareholders threatening to pull out. James silenced them all. Back at the office, Patricia cornered him. The investors are panicking. Your son's existence changes everything, succession planning, share distribution. Good, James interrupted. Draft the paperwork. Split my shares equally between them. That's 40% of Tech Vision. Tom protested, appearing from nowhere. The board won't. The board doesn't have a choice. James's voice was steel. And while you're at it, set up trust funds. The best schools, every opportunity. They're in public school. Sarah's voice made them all turn. She stood in his office doorway, arms crossed. They're staying there. Sarah, I can give them. What they need is a father, James. Not a bank account. That night, alone in his penthouse, James stared at his reflection. The billionaire CEO looked back, successful, powerful, and completely lost. His phone lit up with messages. Victoria, we need to talk about us. Board, emergency meeting tomorrow. Tom, stock down 20%. Sarah, boys asking if you're coming to Daniel's science presentation. The old James would have prioritized damage control, stock prices, the empire he'd built. But as he typed his response to Sarah, wouldn't miss it, James Mitchell realized he wasn't that man anymore. Behind him, the city skyline glittered, Tech Vision's logo illuminating the night. He built that, sacrificed everything for it. Now it was time to build something else. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Mr. Mitchell, these documents require your immediate attention. James's lawyer spread papers across his home office desk. James skimmed the first page. Trust funds for your sons. Standard procedure in high net worth situations. We've drafted separate trusts for each boy, accessible at 25. Make it 21. James looked at the framed photo he'd added to his desk. The boys at their science fair. They're responsible kids. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Sir, given the amount, I trust them. James watched Michael's protective nature in the photo, Thomas's innovative thinking, Daniel's quiet wisdom. They're better than I was at their age. More papers appeared. Now regarding the company's shares. Split equally between them. Mr. Mitchell, Victoria's voice cut through. She stood in the doorway, elegant and angry. So it's true. You're giving away your legacy? The lawyer gathered his papers. I'll have these processed immediately. Once alone, Victoria picked up one of the trust documents. Billions in assets just like that? They're my children. They're strangers who share your DNA. She tossed the paper down. The board called me. They think you're having some sort of breakdown. James moved to his window, watching the Tech Vision logo illuminate the skyline. Because I'm being a father? Because you're dismantling everything you built? Victoria's composure cracked. The James the first knew would never. The James you knew was empty. He turned to face her. The James you knew measured his worth in stock prices and acquisition deals. And now? Now I measure it in science projects and soccer games. In Michael's chess strategies and Thomas's coding brilliance and Daniel's curiosity about the universe. His phone buzzed. Sarah sending a video of the boys practicing their science presentation. Victoria studied him. You really have changed? For the better, I hope. She pulled off her engagement ring, placing it on his desk. Those boys, they'd better be worth it. After she left, James called Sarah. The boys still up? Trying to hack the school's grading system. Tell Thomas it's unethical. Sarah laughed. Tell him yourself. You're still coming to dinner, right? James looked at his desk. Trust documents, company papers, decisions about money and power and legacy. None of it mattered. Wouldn't miss it. Later that night, watching his sons argue over a coding problem, James realized something. The empire he'd built, the billions he'd earned, they were just numbers on a screen. But this? 3 boys who shared his passion for innovation, his drive for excellence, but somehow had Sarah's heart and wisdom? This was his real legacy. His phone buzzed again. The board threatening action, investors pulling out, stock prices plummeting. James silenced it without looking. Some choices made themselves. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The numbers don't lie, James. Tom, his CFO, slid the quarterly report across the conference table. We've lost 15% market value since news of your personal situation broke. 8 executives waited for his response, faces ranging from concerned to hostile. James scanned the document, acutely aware of the tension. Personal situation? James repeated. You mean my children? The timing is unfortunate, Patricia from legal interjected. My sons are not unfortunate timing. James's voice was steel. Next point? There is no next point, Tom insisted. This is the point. You've missed 6 crucial meetings in 2 months. The media's spinning stories about instability in leadership. Investors are nervous. Then let them be nervous. James stood. Meeting adjourned. We're not finished, Patricia protested. Actually, we are. I have a parent-teacher conference at 3. The boardroom erupted. James was halfway to the door when Tom called out. The board is considering a vote of no confidence. James froze, turned slowly. You built this company, Tom continued, but lately you seem more interested in building something else. A family. A distraction. James walked back to the table, placed both hands on its polished surface. Let me be clear. Tech Vision is important to me. But if you force me to choose between my position here and my children, you won't like the outcome. Is that a threat? It's a promise? James straightened. I have majority shares. I can dissolve this board with one phone call. Patricia shuffled her papers nervously. That would tank the stock completely. Then don't make me choose. In his car, James loosened his tie and exhaled slowly. His phone showed 3 missed calls from investors, 2 from the PR team and 1 from Sarah. He called Sarah back. How'd the meeting go? About as well as expected. How are the boys? Anxious to show you their grades. Even Daniel got an A in PE. James smiled, already feeling the boardroom tension fade. Tell them I'm on my way. At Sarah's house, chaos greeted him. Michael was explaining a complex chess strategy, Thomas debugging code, and Daniel reading about quantum mechanics. Dad. Thomas called. Can you help me fix this loop? After he explains why photons act like both particles and waves, Daniel interjected. After he sees my new chest opening, Michael countered. James felt overwhelmed, in the best possible way. His phone buzzed again. Another crisis at Tech Vision. Another board member demanding attention. James turned it off. "Show me the code," he told Thomas. Michael and Daniel crowded around too, all four heads bent together over the laptop. This, James realized, was what success really looked like. "Don't forget to like and subscribe. Mr. Mitchell, those shares you transferred to your sons? The board wants them frozen." Patricia delivered the news in James's office, where family photos now outnumbered business awards. On what grounds? Mental competency. James's laugh was cold. They think being a father makes me incompetent? They think giving 3 10-year-olds 40% of a tech giant shows impaired judgment? His phone buzzed. "Sarah. James Daniel's sick. Eye fever. He's asking for you." The old James would have sent his driver with the best doctors money could buy. The new James was already grabbing his coat. "This meeting isn't over," Patricia protested. "Yes it is." At Sarah's house, Daniel lay curled in bed, unusually pale. Michael and Thomas hovered anxiously. "Dad?" Daniel's voice was small. "Can you explain quantum entanglement now? I can't focus on my book." James sat on the bed, gathering his son close. "Think of it like you three. No matter how far apart particles are, they're connected. Like how Michael always knows when Thomas is in trouble. Or how Daniel finishes our sentences," Thomas added, climbing up. "Exactly." James felt Daniel's forehead burning hot. "It's called spooky action at a distance. Like how Mom knew you'd come," Michael said quietly. Sarah appeared with medicine. 102.3. "We should get him to the hospital." "I'll call my—" "No private hospitals," Sarah interrupted. "No special treatment. They need to live in the real world, James." At the emergency room they waited like any other family. Daniel dozed against James's chest, Michael and Thomas playing quiet games on either side. His phone exploded with messages. Board calling emergency session. Stock dropping further. Victoria giving interviews about his breakdown. James silenced them all, focusing on Daniel's breathing. "You don't have to stay," Sarah said softly. "I know there's a crisis at work." James looked at his sleeping son, at Thomas and Michael fighting sleep to stay close to their brother. "I'm exactly where I need to be." The doctor diagnosed severe flu, prescribing rest and fluids. As they left the hospital, dawn breaking over San Francisco, James realized something. In his old life, he'd pulled countless all-nighters for Tech Vision. But this, watching over his sick child, feeling helpless yet essential. This was the hardest and most important night of his life. "Dad?" Daniel mumbled as James carried him to the car. "Are quarks really fundamental particles?" James smiled through his exhaustion. "Let's discuss quantum chromodynamics when you're better. Promise? Promise?" His phone buzzed one last time, the board's final warning. James deleted it without reading. Some wars weren't worth fighting. Some were. "Don't forget to like and subscribe." "They're trying to force me out," James told Sarah over coffee. 3 weeks had passed since Daniel's hospital stay. The board, the investors, even old friends. "Because you choose your sons over the company?" "Because I choose anything over the company." James watched through the kitchen window as the boys built what they claimed was a quantum computer in the backyard. "They think I'm having a breakdown? Are you? A breakthrough, maybe?" He smiled as Thomas accidentally sprayed Michael with the garden hose, leading to an impromptu water fight. "I've never seen more clearly." His phone rang, Tom Chin again. James declined the call. "You can't avoid them forever," Sarah said gently. "Watch me, Dad." Daniel called from the yard. "We need your help with the quantum entanglement simulation. And the neural network," Thomas added. "And Mom says you promised to teach us about venture capital," Michael reminded him. James stood, but Sarah caught his arm. "They're worried about losing you again." "What do you mean?" "Every time your phone rings they think you'll choose the company. Just like before." Before James could respond, Patricia and Tom appeared at Sarah's back door. "James, this has gone far enough," Tom began. "You can't just ghost the entire board," Patricia added. "Actually, I can." James moved to join his sons. "I'm busy. The shareholders are calling for your resignation. Then let them. Your legacy is right here." James gestured to his sons, now all watching the confrontation with identical concerned expressions. 3 brilliant boys who deserve a father more than Tech Vision deserves a CEO. "You're really willing to lose everything you built?" Tom demanded. James looked at Michael's protective stance, Thomas's defiant glare, Daniel's calculating gaze. I'm not losing anything. I'm gaining everything. The company will fail without you, Patricia warned. No, James smiled. It won't. Because my sons just showed me how to save it. Everyone stared as James pulled out his phone, finally answering one of Tom's hundreds of calls. Call an emergency board meeting. Tomorrow morning. I have a proposition. We're not giving up, Michael declared daily. There's always a solution, Thomas insisted. Statistics can be wrong, Daniel pointed out. James wrote through nights when pain kept him awake. Remember the day we built that volcano? Your first robotics competition? The time you tried to hack my phone? Each memory precious. Each moment captured in ink. In the margins he sketched diagrams of chess moves, coding algorithms, mathematical proofs, maps to hidden wisdom he'd discovered too late. Most importantly, he wrote in each book, remember that success isn't measured in dollars or achievements. It's measured in moments like these. The journals grew thicker. His hands grew weaker. But the words kept coming, for his sons, for their future, for all the conversations they wouldn't get to have. His phone buzzed with messages from doctors, specialists, board members. He ignored them all. Time was his most precious resource now, and he knew exactly how to spend it. Dad? Michael peeked in. We're building a quantum neural network. Want to help? James closed the journals, smiling through his exhaustion. Always. Some legacies couldn't be written. They had to be lived. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ready for this? Sarah asked, helping James straighten his tie. He nodded, conserving energy. 3 months had passed since the diagnosis. Today was Michael's second robotics competition. His team had made the finals. The boys are already there, Sarah continued. Michael's nervous. He shouldn't be, James managed to smile. He's brilliant. The school gymnasium buzzed with excitement. James spotted his sons immediately, 3 blonde heads bent over a robot, making last-minute adjustments. Dad. They rushed over, carefully hugging him. They'd grown protective since his last hospital stay. How's our champion? James asked Michael. The servo motor's acting up, Thomas reported before Michael could answer. The calculations are perfect though, Daniel added. James studied their robot. Show me. They worked together, foreheads bent over circuits and code, just like old times. James's hands shook too much to help, but his mind was still sharp. There, he pointed. The connection's loose? Thomas fixed it quickly. The robot hummed to life. 2 minutes till start, an announcer called. Mom? Michael looked worried. Can Dad stay until the end? Sarah glanced at James. They both knew he should be resting. Wild horses couldn't drag me away, James declared. The competition was fierce. Michael's team advanced round after round. James watched his son lead with confidence, handle setbacks with grace, celebrate victories with humility. In the final round, their robot performed flawlessly. When Michael's team was declared winner, James cheered loudest despite his weakness. We did it. Michael ran to his parents, trophy in hand. Dad, we did it. You did it, James corrected softly. All of you. Later at home, James watched his sons celebrate. Sarah caught his eye, understanding his expression. No regrets, she said quietly. Just one. He watched the boys laugh together. Not having more time. You've given them everything they need. James thought of the journals waiting at home, the lessons, the memories, the love poured onto those pages. Almost everything, he whispered. But watching his sons, Michael's leadership, Thomas's innovation, Daniel's wisdom, James knew Sarah was right. They would be okay. They were his legacy, his greatest achievement, his perfect code. That night, after the boys were asleep, James added to their journals. For Michael, today I watched you lead your team to victory. Not through force or fear, but through understanding and inspiration. You have a gift, son, the ability to bring out the best in others. Use it wisely. For Thomas, your solution to the servo motor problem today was brilliant. But more impressive was how you stepped back and let your brother shine. True innovation isn't just about technology, it's about making space for others to succeed. For Daniel, I saw you calculating trajectories in your head during the competition, supporting your brothers quietly but crucially. You understand that sometimes the most important contributions aren't the most visible. Never lose that wisdom. His hands shook worse now, the writing barely legible. But he had to finish. To all 3 of you, today wasn't just about winning a competition. It was about working together, supporting each other, celebrating as a family. Remember this feeling. It's worth more than any trophy or stock price. I won't be there for your graduations, your first dates, your future victories. But I'll be in the code you write, the problems you solve, the ways you take care of each other. I spent years building Tech Vision thinking it was my legacy. I was wrong. You three, your brilliance, your kindness, your bond with each other, you are my true legacy. Love, Dad. His phone buzzed, another clinical trial offering false hope. James ignored it. Through the window he could see his sons in their treehouse, already planning their next project. Their voices drifted down. If we modify the AI algorithm, using quantum entanglement principles, while optimizing the neural network? James smiled. They were his greatest code, running perfectly, debugging themselves, growing stronger every day. Some programs were meant to outlive their creator. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Sarah sat in the familiar backyard watching three 15-year-old boys huddle over laptops. The treehouse James had started building 5 years ago was long finished now, serving as their coding headquarters. Mom? Thomas called down. We found another one. She climbed up carefully, ducking under the entrance labeled Mitchell Brothers Tech Lab. Inside, 3 identical grins greeted her. Look, Michael pointed to his screen. Hidden in Dad's old programming? It was another Easter egg, one of dozens James had buried in Tech Vision's code before he died. Little messages, puzzles, and life lessons for his sons to discover. To my sons, I won't see you become the men you're meant to be, but I've left you the only algorithm that matters. Love deeply. Think boldly. Care completely. Stay connected. The rest is just syntax. Love, Dad. Sarah found them later in the treehouse, now their private think tank. They were working on something new. A way to help other families, Michael explained. Using what Dad taught us, Thomas added. About what really matters, Daniel finished. Above them, through the treehouse window, the Tech Vision logo glowed against the night sky. But now it meant something different. Not just technology, not just vision, but love coded into every pixel. Family written into every line. Legacy running in perfect synchronization. Just as James had programmed it to be. Don't forget to like and subscribe. 10 years after James's passing, age 25, the St. Regis Hotel ballroom was packed again, but this time for a different celebration. The Mitchell brothers were receiving the James Mitchell Innovation Award, an honor they created not for technological breakthroughs, but for companies that put family first. 15 years ago, Michael addressed the crowd. A man stood in this room and saw his entire world change. He came to shame someone, Thomas continued, but instead found redemption, Daniel completed. Sarah watched from the front row, the 3 journals in her lap. Her sons had grown into remarkable men. Michael, CEO of Tech Vision's Human Development Division. Thomas, Chief Innovation Officer, revolutionizing ethical AI. Daniel, Head of Quantum Research, breaking scientific boundaries. But their greatest achievements weren't professional. Their family-first corporate policies had transformed Silicon Valley. The James Mitchell Foundation had educated millions. Their quantum computing breakthroughs were used for healing, not profit. Our father taught us something profound, Michael continued. Success isn't measured in stock prices, Thomas added. But in the lives we touch, Daniel finished. They unveiled their latest project, the Mitchell Code. Not a computer program but a philosophy. Put family first. Innovation serves humanity. Success requires heart. Legacy is love. In the audience, former board members who'd once opposed James's choices now nodded in understanding. Victoria Chase, long remarried, wiped away tears. Later, in their childhood treehouse, now a historic landmark, the brothers found one final Easter egg. Hidden so deep in Tech Vision's original code that it took them 15 years to find. My sons, if you're reading this, you've already succeeded beyond my wildest dreams. Not because of what you've built, but because of who you've become. Remember, the most complex algorithm is love. The hardest bug to fix is pride. The greatest innovation is kindness. The perfect code is family. I once thought my legacy would be an empire. Instead, it's 3 hearts beating in perfect synchronization. 3 minds solving humanity's greatest challenges. 3 souls proving that success without love is failure in disguise. Keep coding. Keep caring. Keep believing. And remember, the most powerful program ever written is the love between brothers. Forever debugging, Dad. Sarah joined them, watching the sun set over Silicon Valley. Tech Vision's logo still dominated the skyline, but now it stood for something greater. A father's love. A mother's wisdom. 3 brothers' bond. And the understanding that true wealth isn't measured in billions, but in the moments we share and the lives we touch. Moral: Sometimes life's greatest failures lead to our most profound successes. Sometimes our carefully coded plans need a complete rewrite. And sometimes the legacy we think we're building isn't the one that matters most. Because in the end, the only code that truly matters is the one written in our hearts. The program of love, family, and connection that runs deeper than any silicon chip. That was James Mitchell's final innovation, his perfect code. 3 sons who understood that success without love is just numbers on a screen, but love without limits can change the world. And that's a program worth running forever.